Hello there. My name is Kareem Habibi from Keeper's Nursery, and today I'm making hopefully a very nice video about my favourite apples in the nursery. So I've made lots of videos so far where it's just me walking amongst the trees, picking apples, sort of saying, well, this one's alright, this one's no good, or I like this apple. I thought it might be a good idea whilst we are still, so it's the 30th of October 2023. Whilst there are still nice fruits around, I thought basically I'd get them all my favourite ones together that I can assemble, as it were, into one big sort of showpiece video. So that, yeah, I can really sort of show you my recommendations. As I've sort of said before, there are lots of apples in the world, lots and lots of apples, and different sort of countries of different, types of apples that they like. Different individuals like different things, so this is just my selections. And whilst we've got about 700 different varieties here, I've not tried every variety in the world. I rarely actually leave the house, but these are my favorite apples that I've grown myself. The flavors are, you'll see there's a similarity. Basically, one of my favorite apples, I'd have to say, I don't have a favorite apple, but one of my favorite apples is Cox's Orange Pippin. It is a very sort of boring answer to give, but Cox's Orange Pippin, when you pick a really nice Cox's Orange Pippin, has such a, it has that flavor which basically, if you know the flavor, it has such a depth of flavor, such an intense aromatic flavor that it does sort of surpass most other apples. It could be a bit sweeter, the texture could be better, it could be more attractive, it could actually be an earlier apple, let's say, or it could be a later apple, it could be juicier and crispier, and all those things that other apples have. But yeah, Cox's Orange Pippin, that is the sort of the blue, the one of the sort of key components of most of the apples that I really like are Cox's Orange Pippin. Unfortunately for this video, I don't actually have Cox's Orange Pippin. I've got a self-fertile Cox here, so that's very similar. It's slightly smaller. I'll get to self-fertile Cox in a bit. Self-fertile Cox is a very nice sport of Cox's Orange Pippin, but unfortunately for this great video, I don't. I have I have three Cox's Orange Pippin trees. I've eaten most of them that were around because I didn't plan this video, but they haven't produced a lot of fruit this year, unfortunately. It's been a sort of it's not been a great year for fruit, despite what you see in front of you. Don't worry, we're still in business. The trees are fine, but I don't have that one, which is a shame. But nearly all of them, I'm only missing actually one other one other fruit that I wanted in this video, but everything else is here. So I will crack on with the video. So my top 10 apples are these ones right here. So I can start on either side, but basically one of my favorite apples is this Czech apple called Rubinola. So as you can see, Rubinola is quite a large apple. This isn't actually the largest one on the tree. It's quite handsome, classic looking apple. It's got a nice long stalk on it, which I think counts for a lot because it looks good. It also means the fruit will be uniform. The real sort of the strong points of Rubinola, and these are really recommendations both for, this is what I would recommend if someone came to me and asked, what are your favorite apples, a customer who wants to buy a tree, hand on heart, these are honestly my favorite apples. These aren't actually, funnily enough, the ones that I've produced the most of, just because they haven't got the reputation that some other apples have. For example, let's say Scrumptious has got a good reputation. It's not here today. But let's say Cox's Orange Pippin, which unfortunately would be here today, I sell a fair few of those as well. But something like Rubinola, I say one of the key aspects to an amateur growing a fruit tree is it has some disease resistance. So this is a modern variety. It was bred at the Experimental Institute in the Czech Republic, and they basically wanted to breed apples that had better disease resistance, partly to help organic growers to grow the fruit, but you can benefit from this because, let's say, in your garden in wet England, where you might be prone to scab and canker and mildew, something like this suddenly comes along and you're like, hey, that's pretty beneficial. So I've actually got my knife today. I'm going to cut into this. So it's got quite sort of yellow flesh to it. You can hear it's quite crisp. So some apples will be completely white inside. This one isn't. This one is slightly yellow. Funnily enough, if you left this apple out, if I leave this apple for a good week just lying on the on the table, it will stay completely sort of creamy white inside. It won't go brown like a Bramley. Not entirely sure why that is, but it's a lovely thing as well, because nothing worse than cutting the apple and seeing it go brown quickly. But that's really only a problem with Bramleys. Dessert apples don't have that issue. So yeah, I will try these as well. So, Rubinola's real benefit is it has, most of these have, they've got aroma, but it's also got sort of some acidity to go along with the sweetness. It's also got extremely nice crispiness, so it almost sort of melts in your mouth. The only downside to this tree is it is more of a tip bearer. It is quite a vigorous tree as well, so you get quite a large tree, and you don't get like clumps of apples together. You just get sort of a big you get apples on the end of the on the end of the branches, basically, which isn't a problem. But if you wanted to create, let's say, like an espalier or something, it's probably not the apple for you. But I highly recommend Rubinola. I'll come back and sort of I'll keep these because I can sort of compare different apples with other apples, which will be quite handy. Number 2, so this is the most famous. I've done loads in this this variety in the other videos. This is Egremont Russet. So it's quite a small apple. It's got a very short stalk in comparison to the Rubinola. It does look a bit like a potato. So the russet, as a lot of you will probably know, hopefully, is this sort of rough golden skin, which again, quite a few of the apples in front of me have got. There's Claygate Pearmain, which has got some rusting. Pitmaston Pineapple's a russet. Herefordshire Russet's got some russet. Karmijn's got a bit of russet. Ashmeads Kernel's got russet. Rubinola, Captain Kidd have both got quite a lot of russet. Norfolk Royal Russet's a russet. So, russet actually does improve the flavour of I think anyway, that it does improve the flavour of the fruit as well. This is the classic English russet. They were available they are still available in shops. These, if you grow your own, they get very sweet, nutty, aromatic flavour to them, quite sort of unique. They're slightly drier, so with something like a Rubinola, a classic sort of dessert apple, the modern sort of crispy ones, those are juicier. This is a lot drier. So it doesn't have that level of juice, but it's got such a nice flavour to it. I can't really describe. I can compare the two now. See, after you've eaten this one just tastes sweet. This one's got way more aroma to it. So, lots of you all heard this isn't groundbreaking stuff. Egremont Russet's good, but Egremont Russet is very good. Slightly less well known is Captain Kidd. So Captain Kidd, you can see a lot of colour on this, a lot of strange stuff. This is very similar to the Seedling I've got. This is Seedling 24, I believe. Sorry, I've got some notes under here just to cheat a bit. So Seedling 24 is a seedling of Kidd's Orange Red, which Captain Kidd is a mutation of Kidd's Orange Red. So Seedling 24 is sort of quite similarly related to this one. You can see they've got sort of patchy, blotchy sort of russeting on them. So, some people might say that's unattractive. I think that's interesting and quite cool, actually. So yeah, Captain Kidd's an interesting one. This is a Cox's Orange Pippin again. So this is a Cox's Orange Pippin seedling. Well, Kidd's Orange Red was a Cox's Orange Pippin seedling crossed with Red Delicious, I believe. So that's why it's got this sort of like Red Delicious sort of like conical shape to it, possibly, whereas Cox tends to be more completely round. But yeah, this has a very distinct pear drops flavour to it. So pear drops flavour, for anyone who's not English, I don't know what other countries have the sweets. I think it's acetal flavours. I think that's what we learned in chemistry all those years ago. But it's a very nice flavour again. So Captain Kidd, you have to leave it on the tree to really ripen, because if you pick this in sort of mid, even late September, it might not have any flavour to it. Suddenly in sort of early October, it really depends on the year, you suddenly get this like additional flavour suddenly come about. It sort of completely changes the fruit. But going with that, the fruit then tends to soften, which is not a deal breaker, but it does sort of take a bit out of the enjoyment, the experience of eating the apple. Oh, it's gone a bit soft now, and it does fall off the tree, so you have to sort of use them when they're right. This has slightly gone over, so this was better sort of 2-3 weeks ago. The flavour is terrific right now, but yeah, it has gone a bit soft, but most people will still tolerate that and think it's acceptable. I think it's fine. So that, it's got more sweetness than the Egremont Russet, and it's on par in terms of the intensity of the flavour, but this has an additional pear drops flavour, which is very cool. Ashmeads Kernel. So Ashmeads Kernel this year didn't actually crop much. Ashmeads Kernel, as you can see, it can be redder than this. This was buried behind all its big leaves. It produces nice big leaves, a bit like, I suppose, a bit like a bramley. It's got these big dense foliage. Russet again, very irregular shape, so it's never going to be a famous supermarket variety in any way, but this is a sort of classic British, I think they're called sweet sharp variety. So it's got that intense aroma, but it's sweet and it's sharp, which as soon as you try it, you get it, because it's not unpleasantly sweet, it's not unpleasantly sharp, it balances out almost perfectly, and it's got aroma. This is, a lot of people do like Ashmeads Kernel. This isn't sort of groundbreaking news either. Not that anything I'm doing is groundbreaking. Oh, actually, some of the seedlings might be. Take it back. Yeah, that packs a punch, but it's... It's juicy, so it's almost like you have a really, really vibrantly flavoured smoothie or something. If you try a smoothie, it's got a bit of banana in, so that's where the sweetness comes from, and I guess the strawberry is the acidity, or the orange juice or the strawberry, but together it's like, you almost think, well, this is quite sugary and probably bad for my teeth, but it has both, and it's very sort of, you get it in every mouthful. So compare that to an Egremont Russet. That's far more mellow. Fruity, but mellow. This one is acidic. I'm just going to stand up. I'm just going to check that the phone's actually filming this. Yep. Phone's working, but I've only 13 minutes. I've done 4 of the apple. Brilliant. Moving on, Rubinette. I've probably done this in a lot of videos as well. I love Rubinette. It's gorgeous. So it can get scab. I'm gonna say it's maybe not the best apple if you live in a wet part of the country. Not like we don't live in a wet part of the country now. We've just had. I mean, the floods in England have been quite bad, so I don't want to sort of make light of the subject, but it's we've had 10 centimetres in the last 3 weeks, which is quite a lot for us, and I don't want any more rain, because things are getting a bit wet, and I do need to get the tractors out at some stage. But I keep a record of the rain, and I look at it quite intense. It's quite a lot of rain, but I'm sure in other parts of the country it's been much worse. So anyway, I hope everyone's all right. Cracking on. So this isn't very good for the wet part of the country. This one, I don't know if we've got any notes on this. Yeah, it's a Golden Delicious Cox cross. So, hey ho, someone did the Golden Delicious Cox cross and came up with, a very, very nice Cox flavour, on an apple that's a bit more characteristically like a Golden Delicious, so it's a bit sort of juicier. Now that is, it's more mellow than something like an Ashmeads Kernel. So that tastes like quite sharp in comparison. This is very sweet, lovely aroma. I'm gonna have to do this for all of them. So this is much sweeter, and oh, this tastes like sweets right now. No, the sweets one was the Captain Kidd. This one hasn't got the acidity either, so, but they're sort of fruity in different ways. It's quite hard to exactly sort of pinpoint these. Norfolk Royal Russet, I think this apple looks amazing. The russet is a very sort of, it's a very faint russet. It's almost like ghostly. You know, it's patchy as well, like the Captain Kidd. You get sort of, or every single fruit looks like some artist came up and did a unique pattern on. You know, like compared to Golden Hills, it's sort of base yellow. Compared to Egremont Russet, it's a base colour. These ones, it's like some artist had a go at every single one, and I really like that because each apple does sort of have, you know, have a unique look to it, which I think is very nice. I've gone on about this apple loads. I've posted pictures of it. I think this apple is, you know, really, really good. So in terms of the season of this, it's ripe right now. It'll be ripe for another few more weeks as well. You can start picking it sort of the very end of September. That's when the flavor, that's when the sweetness and the aroma picks up. One of the best things about this apple is that it's crisp but it's light. So there's like no resistance when you bite it. It is very sweet. It doesn't have any acidity, so it might not be for everyone, but it's just a light apple. I mean, you get more of it if you actually bite into the apple off the tree rather than cut it. But it's like it's like you've just bit nothing, but it's still crisp for some reason. This one is Freyberg. So Freyberg is, I believe, also a Golden Delicious Cox. So that's the same cross. These two are the same cross. So that was the Rubinette and the Freyberg. Same cross, comes up with different things. So this one has the look, the terrible look of Golden Delicious, but what a flavour it's got. I'd say one of the best, if not the best flavours in the whole nursery. It's just got that perfect Cox's Orange Pippin flavour, but weirdly, like, I can't say it's better, but it is just so good. It's just such a shame that it's a yellow apple. One of the benefits of this is it's ripe quite late, so although it's the end of October right now, you can store something like a Rubinola. That will store quite well. This is pretty much finished, but you could have stored it, and because it's dry, it doesn't really matter if you lose the crispness. I've already said Captain Kidd, the flavour improves, but you get a small window and then it does go a bit soft, and that's disappointing. I mean, most apples when you store them, sorry I'm holding a knife, it's quite a scary video I reckon. Most apples when you store them, you do sort of lose a bit of flavour. So if you've stored an apple for a month, it might still be good, but it's not as good as when it was ripe. That's just how these things work, I'm afraid. Yeah, Ashmeads Kernel's ripe right now. See, that one, because it's acidic, is already going brown. That's interesting. Yeah, Rubinette store's okay, and that's ripe right now. But that one will be later, which is quite good. So I can still pick that off the tree right through November. Some of these are basically, I mean, that will be finished. Some of these will be finished. That's the point I'm trying to get to. Shenandoah, this is another spectacular apple, which this one's not well known at all. This is an American apple. I couldn't even find out much about it, but this one consistently crops really well. And I'd say it's on the sort of less aromatic, but just everything you kind of want in an apple in terms of the flavour. You know, it's nothing wild like where I'm saying sort of kids are the Captain Kidd or the Norfolk Royal Russet or the Freyberg. They've got these aromas from Cox. This one is just a very, very good apple. Every year it's very nice. It's just a, you know, it's got the crispness, it's got enough flavour, it's got intensity in the flavour, but it doesn't sort of try anything flash. So I like that. That's sort of, it's not James Milner, but it's sort of, it's a good apple. Yeah, I guess it's a bit like James Milner. James, if you're watching, you're a good apple as well. I miss you. This one is Golden Hills. So Golden Hills is a relatively new apple that's been bred near here in Marden. I like Golden Hills. It's a relatively early apple. So out of all these are all sort of mid-season apples. Golden Hills will be ripe the first out of all of the earliest. So Egremont Russet will be ripe in sort of mid-ish September time in Kent. This one will be ripe in early September. The flavour and the texture doesn't change much for 2 months. You get about a 2-month window. It's sort of juicy, aromatic, crisp. It is yellow, which lets it down a bit, but I like the difference. But yeah, it's a really, really nice apple. I mean, it's come sort of to the end of its season. It does lose its flavour a little bit. The powers are waning, let's put it that way. It's the end of the football season. It's been a grueling season. Some players are losing their powers. Sorry for the football references if you're not into football. These aren't. I'll stop. This one is Holstein. So Holstein, I've put him in as the 10th one in this sort of 10 lineup of the best ones. Holstein is I believe it's a triploid. It's probably a Cox seedling. I just really like the intensity of the flavour of this apple. So this apple is ripe at the end of September, early October. It falls. I mean, this one I picked off the floor. All of them were on the floor. They're still okay. We've not had many frosts here. Well, we've had 2 frosts. It has gone a bit soft, but I'm hoping the intensity of the flavour is still there. It's lost a little bit, but Holstein it's got that intense apple juice flavour, which I was saying Ashmeads Kernel had. So it's not quite as sharp as Ashmeads Kernel, the sort of the sweet sharp flavour, but it is. I mean, basically a lot of these are Cox. You get the impression. I'm probably if you want to have some fun, I do believe on my videos you can get subtitles, so I don't know if I'm going to sort of get in trouble because I keep saying Cox, but I'm saying COX. But yeah, as you know, the subtitles don't really work that well. Well, they work incredibly well, but they probably will misspell it, which will be hilarious. So since I've put these here, spiders have made a web, which is quite cool on some of these apples. I'm sorry guys, but I'm gonna have to move some apples. So we'll do my second. So these are like the second, because I can't just pick 10 apples. That seemed a bit harsh. So I've picked 10 more apples, which I think are very, very good, sort of exceptional apples in the nursery, which I highly recommend. The first one I was going to show was a variety called Rajka. So Rajka's another Czech one, a bit like Rubinola. It's the same people at the Institute of Experimental Botany or something. Lovely people. Like genuinely, they're very nice. Rajka's really nice. I used Rajka to breed some of these seedling varieties as one of the parents. Again, it's a disease-resistant variety. It's quite an attractive apple, so I thought, hey, that's quite a nice idea. Let's make more disease-resistant, attractive apples, and let's try and spice them up with some cool flavours. Unfortunately, I've picked all the fruit, and all the fruit is now gone. It's the only thing with Rajka is it can sort of be like not an unreliable cropper, but an inconsistent cropper. So I will find 1 year it's very good, 1 year it's not as good. So it will still be crisp, it will still be attractive, but for some reason that flavour which I was expecting isn't there. I find that also with something like Red Windsor, some years it's not entirely there. Unfortunately, I've found it also in the seedling that the Rajka seedling, which I called Hamid's Red Pippin, which is a really nice apple. Had loads of these beautiful things this year. They haven't quite got the flavour this year, which is disappointing. But 3 years out of 4 they did. So, and this is true of a lot of apples. So, even Fertile Cox, some years it's not amazing, some years it's good. Claygate Pearmain, some years it's a bit of a duff year. Some of these are consistent. So consistency is a weird thing. To get into that whole topic of consistency, I find that some apples are really consistent, but it could be the weather, it could be a number of things, because so many things go into the production of the apple, and our weather's always so all over the place. Could be anything, but I'm hoping it's not something wrong with the variety. Oh, so anyway, I haven't got Rajka. Rajka's not available today. Instead, we go on to the other. So I've got 9 of them instead. So there's 9 here. This one is called Karmijn de Sonnaville. Karmijn de Sonnaville is quite a large apple. It's a bit like an Ashmeads Kernel, actually. It's sort of a big leafed tree as well. Karmijn is a Dutch apple. It's, I mean, that doesn't mean it's anything, but it's also a relatively dry apple, which means it's quite nice for baking. So it's one of those hybrid apples. It's a dual purpose, as they say. So it can be dry. My father used to actually dry these. So we used to make sort of apple rings. We used to sort of core the apple and then dry them in a like a dehumidifier tower thing. Sort of I guess it's a sort of 80s contraption, but yeah, they were nice. But yeah, because it's dry, you can bake with it. So when you bake with an apple, you need a dry apple. You don't want to bake with an apple that's so I'm going to get to the cookers later. You wouldn't bake with a Bramley, because a Bramley's going to mush up. Well, you can bake with a Bramley, but you would prefer to bake with a drier apple. Some cookers are better with baking. Actually, my dad used to bake Bramley, but that might anyway. Karmijn de Sonnaville. I mean, this should be. The reason it's better than some of these right now is because some of their powers have waned, as I said. This is basically a really nice aromatic, sweet, sharp flavour. So I'd say it's sweeter than an Ashmeads Kernel. It has slightly more aroma. Who knows? Maybe it should have been in there instead. But Karmijn is very, very nice. We don't produce lots of them. It's just not a very well-known apple. But hopefully more people watch this video and go nuts for it. This is Elstar. Elstar is another Dutch apple. I think the Dutch are probably quite good at breeding apples based on the few that I've got. Or whoever it was in Holland who did this. Not every Dutch person. Yeah, Elstar is very nice. Elstar can keep quite well. It has had a history of being a commercial variety. I don't know how much it still is. It's probably been surpassed with some other new cool thing that someone else has bred, but I still like Elstar. It's still good on the tree as well. So it has a season of about a month and a half on the tree. It's coming to the end of it, but like, it's aromatic. It's got, most of my apples are quite similar if you actually tried these. So you can store Elstar. Elstar can get a bit of scab. So again, if you live in the wetter parts of the world / Britain, maybe pick something else. This is Cheerfull Gold. So this is Nuvar Cheerfull Gold. So the people who bred Nuvar Golden Hills bred a few other things. This was a slightly later release. This is Cheerfull Gold, which is a Cox Golden Delicious again. So that's the same as Freyberg and Rubinette. people did Cox Golden Delicious. I think I've mentioned that on a video before. This is a really late season apple, so it's not actually even quite ripe yet, but you can basically pick it right through November and even December, which I think is pretty cool. That's why it's in the group. Not for its sort of flavor profile or anything on its own, but it's just the merit that, hey, it's sort of late November. If you want to go into your nursery and pick a sort of fresh tasting apple off the tree, you can pick Nuvar Cheerfull Gold. You wouldn't be able to pick most of these will all be off the tree, or they'll be soft, you'd have to have stored them. Even something like Rubinola, which is sort of pretty robust, that's its powers wane, you know, on the tree. It sort of becomes a bit more tasteless. This one keeps going, which is very impressive. It has a slightly sort of sharp, less aromatic flavour than I would like, but still, you know, decent apple. This is Herefordshire Russet. So Herefordshire Russet is a relatively modern, so I think it's probably about 30 years old or something, variety. I think it is regarded as sort of maybe the second best russet behind Egremont Russet. So Herefordshire Russet isn't as well known as Egremont Russet, but you know, it produces a sort of nice looking tree, and its flavour profile isn't the same. It doesn't look anything like it, but the Egremont Russet is the sweeter, nuttier, more aromatic one. Herefordshire Russet is more sort of, it's like more of a modern style, so it's slightly crispier, it's slightly juicier, it's not as dry. So it's almost like if you wanted to give someone a russet, but they were, you know, they only ate pink ladies or something, you're like, well, this has got some similarities. Whereas if you give someone a russet, it's a bit dry and it's not crispy and juicy, they might think, oh, what's this apple? This is all wrong. So this one has got some of the characteristics of a, you know, a nice modern apple, which are all good things. It still has that. It still has that flavour. I think it must be in the skin, but it has that russet flavour, which is just, yeah, just really, really good. I hope you guys like russets watching this, because if you for some reason you don't like russets, and you've not, you know, you've done something, well, someone's not shown you good russets, or maybe they're not available where you are. This one won't be ripe yet. This is Sturmer Pippin. So this one I've put in there because, again, late season is a big deal. Most of these apples will disappear. I get sick of apples. I don't even think about storing apples because I'm just... You've seen some of these videos. This isn't what I do every day, but... Well, maybe you've not seen the videos. But I do eat a lot of apples. My tummy tells me every morning or every few mornings, you overdid it again. Late season, because I've not stored anything, I'm not foraging on the ground picking up sort of soft apples. This will still be on the tree. It will be still sort of refreshing and nice, a bit like what I said about the Cheerfull Gold. So that's hugely beneficial in my mind. God, that's pretty dense right now. So Sturmer Pippin. Nothing really to report right now. And same here, Pixie is a late season Cox. It's got that lovely sort of, the sepals down here look just like Cox, they sort of stick out. Pixie, again, in November, you want an apple. Pixie is one of these great ones you can go to. Looks like a Cox on the inside, actually. It's sort of sweet. And again, with these late season ones, you can really store them really well, really, really well, which is something you can't do with summer apples. I'll get to that later. This is Fertile Cox, so this is the nearest thing to a Cox I've got. This was really good a few weeks ago, but I think it will have been, won't quite be as good as it was. So that flavour is pretty much bang on Cox. So if I compare that to Captain Kidd, Captain Kidd is sweeter, less sour, slightly fruitier. If I compare that to, let's say, Egremont Russet, which would... Yeah, again, this one's got more of an intense flavour, slightly sharper. If I compare it to Rubinette, Rubinette is slightly sharper. Norfolk Royal Russet, that's just sweeter and lighter. Well, Freyberg, that's very sweet. So Cox itself isn't just sweetness. Some of these have just got sweetness. This one is sort of bang in the middle, but it still has the floral notes, the aroma, and that is a sensational apple. I guess the only reason that's not in my top 10 is because I would have put Cox's Orange Pippin in my top 10. I didn't think that through, actually. I probably would sub out either Ashmeads Kernel or Holstein, just because I like these sweet things. I'd probably put Cox's Orange Pippin instead of them. Speaking of sweet apples, this is Pitmaston Pineapple. So Pitmaston Pineapple is a very small apple. It's usually ripe at the end of September, so this will be soft now. It's cute, it's fun, it's a little russet. As the name suggests, it does have a pineapple flavour to it. Oh, it's very soft. This will be quite dry and soft. Still very sweet. Boy, does it have it. It just has a bang-on pineapple flavour to it. If you pick this in September, you get slightly crisper apples. This one's actually quite good for nibble. I think this is quite good for these sort of nibble because you suddenly get a bit of juice, and that juice is just pure pineapple flavour. This last one is Claygate Pearmain. So Claygate Pearmain, I'd say, is a sort of more classic British apple. It's got quite an intense sort of nutty flavour to it, so a bit like the Ashmead sort of. It's not one of my sort of sweet floral apples. If you like sweet apples, you're looking at Freyberg, Norfolk Royal Russet, Captain Kidd. If you want, oh, I guess Pitmaston Pineapple. Yeah, maybe you saw that. There's a sparrowhawk fighting a kestrel. Don't see that every day. I do see it often. Yeah, so anyway, Claygate Pearmain's quite cool. Forgotten what I was saying, but yeah, I like Claygate Pearmain. So it's crisp as well. It has, weirdly, Claygate Pearmain, in its absence of a really fruity flavour, it makes you focus on the actual. I don't usually do that. I was actually focusing in on all the flavours because it was lacking the initial burst of, I guess, fragrance. The apple flavour itself is really, really, really good. You know, maybe actually if I try one of these fruity ones. Yeah, that's weird. So if you try a really fruity thing like Kidd's Orange Red, me discovering how to eat properly, taste properly after all these years. There's an initial really strong flavour with this, like the nose, let's say, if this was like beer tasting or wine tasting, but then the body is mellow, whereas this one has no nose, but the body is like bang on right. So anyway, that's Claygate Pearmain. So going through these 10 as it were, there would be Cox's Orange Pippin. There's Rubinola, very nice. I won't say very nice after everyone, but there's Rubinola, there's Egremont Russet, there's Captain Kidd, there's Ashmeads Kernel, there is, or maybe I should hold these up. So there's Rubinola here. There is Egremont Russet here. Nice. And cut. There is Captain Kidd. There's Ashmeads Kernel. Rubinette. Norfolk Royal Russet. Quite a big one actually. Big specimen. Freyberg. Shenandoah. Nuvar Golden Hills. Holstein. And then in the second ones, there was Rajka, not there. We have Karmijn, which I was very impressed with today, this Karmijn. We've got Elstar. We've got Cheerfull Gold, Nuvar Cheerfull Gold. We've got Herefordshire Russet. Sturmer Pippin. Pixie. Fertile Cox. Pitmaston Pineapple. And Claygate Pearmain. Which brings us on to some other apples. Keep watching. It doesn't end yet. Yeah, as I mentioned, I've got a red Windsor here. So these are some of the early apples. So early apples, I would also put this Golden Hills in Nuvar Golden Hills. I'd put this is an apple that I bred, which I've named Bethan. I put that in as an early variety as well. So early varieties is a tricky subject. They're not as good. Early varieties are generally inferior apples. They lack the sweetness, they don't have the same flavour, they don't store well, so they've got a few handicaps, but that's partly because they've not had as long to fruit. So this is, sorry, red Windsor, I'm getting a bit brain dead. So that was ripe a good month ago. It's still all right. It's very sweet, but it's you know, when they go soft. It was better before, so I'm not really judging these too harshly. It is a good apple on a good year. As I've said, it can be inconsistent. This is St Edmunds Pippin. St Edmunds Pippin is going to be really soft, but it's so sweet and banana flavoured. It's like a pear. That's just a pear. That's amazing. This is a small discovery, so the top doesn't look like it, but the bottom looks like lovely, like a discovery. Discovery is an interesting apple. It's quite a good, it's red on the inside as well a bit, so you get pinky red, and you can get the red version, which is called Russet. Discovery is just a good apple for an early apple, and it'll be ripe from very late August. I mean, this doesn't taste of anything. This will be like a weird bad one, but it is really, really nice discovery. For an early apple, it looks nice, and you can cook with it, and it's sort of pinky. It's a fun apple. It's big. It's sort of flat as well. It's a big flat round thing. The other apples I'd put in the early group, so I haven't got those because they're long gone. Vista Bella is the very early season apple. It's got a very short sort of shelf life because you basically have to pick it. It's either starchy and underripe, or it's bang on perfect, and that will be. It'll have aroma. It'll have like a very strong strawberry flavour to it, and they're not as refreshing. They're not as juicy, but in a weird way, you just like them because you haven't had an apple yet that year. Laxton's Epicure is a very nice early season apple. That's got, when that's ripe, but again, short. You get a short window. You know, if you went on holiday and you missed it, you'll have missed it because it's only going to be about a week where it's perfect. There's also, there's also Sunrise as well. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes so I don't forget. Sunrise is a nice early season apple as well. That one, it's got quite a long season for an early apple, where between sort of, I'd say, mid-August to mid-September, you're looking at sort of the fruit improves towards the end and then it falls off a cliff, but you can pick it during that whole period and the fruit will be quite nice. So Sunrise, I that was my favourite apple growing up, because in the summer holidays that was the apple that I could pick and it was nice. You know, when I was young and stupid, I'd pick Bramleys off the tree when they were sort of sour, but that's because young children like really weird things. But no, Sunrise is very nice. So early season apples is a slightly different category, but I thought I should mention those as well. I've also got my favourite seedlings that I've produced here, which are still magically available. So this is seedling number 82. It's not named yet. I only really noticed this one last November, so November 2022, because it doesn't really do that much until suddenly around this time of the year it improves. It does, it's probably got some sort of golden, it's an openly pollinated one, so it's probably got some sort of golden deliciousy type thing in, but it's got a remarkable flavour to it, in that it's got that balanced flavour, which does it have the Claygate Pearmain? Let me see. It has got sort of a sweet, sharp flavour to it, but pleasantly sweet. It's got some slight aroma to it as well, but not too strong. But it's quite firm, so it's a bit more like a classic apple. And what struck me as well, this year they've become quite red, but last year they were completely yellow until sort of mid-November time. They suddenly got a red blush on them, and I noticed them and I picked a few and I was like, wow, these are actually, you know, way better than I thought. Because when they were yellow I thought, well, you know, you can overlook a yellow apple, but I was very, very fond of 82. This is 27, so this one I've known for a few years is quite good. So this is an interesting russet with a sort of copper colour underneath, a bit like a sort of Dorando pear in the colour. This one isn't quite ripe either. So it will improve in the next few weeks, I guess. This is I think one that I only really took note of last year as well, actually. So that's quite aromatic, could be sweeter, but then it's also quite juicy and firm. So more juicy and firm than an Egremont Russet, which is you know, a good thing because people like the sort of juicy type, the Herefordshire Russet. I think it does get more sweeter and more, the flavour intensifies in the next few weeks actually. So last year, because I picked these in mid-November, it's not even November yet, so this will improve. But it's a lovely colour, isn't it? Because there aren't many apples that are this sort of copper colour. This is 24, which, yeah, right now for my money is the nicest seedling I've got ripe at this moment. It's not the best seedling I have, but in terms of if someone like family came around this week and I gave them this one, they liked it. So number 24 is quite good. This is a Kids Orange Red seedling. So you can see I mentioned it's got that sort of crazy Captain Kidd looking blotchiness to it. And it has the flavour, but it's also crispier. So Captain Kidd right now, oh, this is going to be a battle. So Captain Kidd is actually much softer. I'd say maybe less aromatic. Definitely on par, or possibly more aromatic than Captain Kidd, which is incredible. So I'm really, you know, excited about this. This one didn't look great at all last year. It had a lot of these sort of blobs on, which is a bit like Knobby Russet, which isn't going to do it any favours. I'll have to see, but the aroma of a lot of the seedlings are actually very intense. I'll have to see how consistently it crops as well. Yeah, this one's Bethan. I We won't cut this one because I do need to show this to someone. This is the only one. This one actually is a summer apple. It ripens in sort of early September time. It's a very sort of lovely intense flavour. It's not the best looking apple, which kind of lets it down a bit, you know, I have to be honest. I don't think that apple looks great, but for a summer apple it does actually look good. If you're sort of very early September, you see that, you're like, wow, that's actually quite a nice apple in comparison to everything else there is. The flavour is, in my opinion, superior to most things that are around in early September, throughout August as well. But I have to show that to some people, so sorry once again you don't get to see it. There is a ladybird who might go over the camera any second as well. Buzz off. Yeah. So this one is Hamid's Red Pippin. It's a lovely looking apple this year again. It's believed to be a discovery, so it'll be a Rajka crossed with a discovery. These are all openly pollinated. I was just doing it for fun when I did it. It looks good this year. It's slightly less red than it was in the past. The texture is lovely. The appearance is, as I've said, the appearance is good. It hasn't quite developed the flavour. It's almost like diluted Ribena in terms of, you know, when you make a drink for yourself but you've diluted it and it's like, oh, it's not got the flavour it had when it blew. So it blew my socks off for 3 years in a row, and then this last year, I don't know, I'll see what happens with it next year. Hopefully it's better. We'll see. This is Seedling at number 126, so that's a Rubinola seedling. It's got a similar sort of top to it. Might start raining in a sec, so I might have to go in. So this Seedling 126 is it's been in the fridge for a while, so it doesn't look great. It does get some sort of issues, maybe with scab, but it's just here for display. It doesn't look good. I know it doesn't look good, but it's been stored for about a month, and the flavour is still quite good. So I just wanted to display some of the differences. So those are all the dessert apples. Now we'll move on to the cooking apples. I might have to stop this if it does actually tip it down. We'll go through it quickly. So we've got Calville Blanc d'Hiver. So this is a very famous apple in terms of its appearance. It will sort of go more yellow when it's actually ripe. They use it for things like tartatin in France. This like ribbed crown look is very special, I think. I could try these actually, but not much point. So it does hold its shape when cooked. I'm not sure which one this one is. Let me show my working. I've got, oh yeah, so this one's Gloria Mundi. So Gloria Mundi, you can cook this, I believe, yeah, you can cook this into like a sauce, puree. There isn't much point in me trying these, but I will anyway. So that's Gloria Mundi. I guess it's relatively sweet. There's Howgate Wonder. So there's some disease resistant. This one's quite sweet, and it has been allowed to go red. So Howgate Wonder was the one that people thought this was like the big. You can get really big Howgate Wonders on the tree. I've found that Crimson Peasgood, which is the red sport of Peasgood nonsuch, produces larger fruits. This isn't actually the biggest one I've got, but the big ones went to my daughter's school. Oh gosh. Yes, so this one, Crimson Peasgood, you can actually, you're supposed to bake with this one. It's quite good because it holds its shape when you cook it. So you can basically bake with this one, which is nice. It hasn't got the acidity. That's why, because basically acidic apples will break down. So the most acidic one will be Bramley here. This is actually a Bramley 20. It's quite a uniform looking Bramley. They're usually all over the show. That's so much sharper at Bramley. That's why it breaks down when you cook it. Sort of breaks down into mush. That is Reverend Wilkes, so that's a very sort of pretty cooker, very pale. So that's sweeter. So without looking it up, I'd say you don't turn that into a mash, but I might be wrong. This is Newton Wonder. So I don't think this is the type of apple that fell on Isaac Newton's head when he came up with the theory of gravity. I think that's supposed to be Beauty of Kent or something. But anyway, this one is it's another cooker that we sell. Try it. Sharper. Which leaves me with Annie Elizabeth. Yes, I remember. This one's Annie Elizabeth. So this one is yeah, this one's one that you turn into a puree as well. This one is very sharp. So I hope this video has been enjoyable. I'll quickly grab the camera and sort of scan over the fruit so it gets a sort of close-up view of it. But anyway, those are my favourite varieties. It's about to rain. I've had fun. I'll probably do one more video in November, just walking around the nursery trying them. But yeah, if you've got any questions about any of these discussed apples, or if you've got any favourite varieties that I've not mentioned, feel free to comment. Do bear in mind I've not tried all the sort of, let's say you're American, because I'm assuming you speak English because I'm speaking English. I'm not that I haven't tried all the American varieties, so the reason some might not be in there is it's just I've not travelled to America and tried all the hundreds and whatever varieties that you've got there. There are going to be loads of things that I've not tried, but this is what I grow here, and these are the best what I grow. So we all have opinions. So a little zoom up of some of these apples. So this is Karmijn. This is Elstar. This is Cheerfull Gold. This is Herefordshire Russet. This is Sturmer Pippin. This is Pixie, but it's not quite right. This is Fertile Cox. This is Pitmaston Pineapple. And this one is Claygate Pearmain. And then my favourite ones, this is Rubinola. Still white. This one is Egremont Russet. So yeah, it has cracked actually in the rain. This is the lovely Captain Kidd. That's the Golden Delicious, Red Delicious, Cox, Red Delicious. This is Ashmeads Kernel, without much colour on it. But you can see, because it was acidic, it's gone very brown. This one is Rubinette. This is Norfolk Royal Russet. Look at that. Look at all that. Wow. Wowie wow wow. This one is Freyberg. I mean, it lies to you. It's deceptively ugly. It's such a nice apple. This one is Shenandoah. Very nice apple. kind of classic looking, I'd say. Classic, good looking apple. Handsome. Yeah, this yellow one is Nuvar Golden Hills. I don't know if the filters will make these look warmer or colder, but Nuvar Golden Hills is a sort of cold pale colour. That is Holstein, so Holstein is, you know, slightly larger and quite a warm colour. And then these are my seedlings. That's 1, 2, 6, but after it's been in the fridge and looks rubbish. That's Hamid's Red Pippin. Oh, wow, it's been an hour of video. That is Bethan. This is Seedling 24. Let's look at all that. Interesting. Get these sort of white blotches on it, which are cool. Yeah, this is the red one. This is Seedling 27. So it looks good. And that is 82. Okay, and looks pretty good. That's Red Windsor here, which is a very pretty apple, I have to say. Red Windsor. Very dark. You don't get many dark ones which are as good, I don't think. That is St Edmunds Pippin, which is basically a Egremont Russet but with a stalk. That one is a Discovery. And then we've got, oh gosh, Gloria Mundi. Yeah, the bigger in my hands, you see. Howgate Wonder, Bramley 20 actually. Oh, the big one. That is Crimson Peasgood, Reverend Wilkes, Calvin Blanc d'Hiver. I want to see Annie Elizabeth, and lastly, Newton Wonder. So yeah, I mean the other cookers I've not got here, things like Jumbo and Bountiful, which are both very good. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope this has been a fun video for you all to watch, and yeah, anyway, take care, bye bye.